We're going to open up through the wrists a little bit, and then we're going to spend some time on them. So we're going to put the wrists down on the ground. I'm going to sit my hips all the way back onto my heels, and I'm going to start to tap with my entire hands forward. This should be an audible sound you can hear. And then start to take your hips up, and notice how that changes the audible sound in your hands. Try not to bend through the elbows. Noticing how the more forward you come, the harder it gets and the more you feel it in your forearms. We're working musculature that isn't often worked at this point. Sit your heels back. We're gonna move on and just do pinkies. So tapping your pinkies. If other fingers want to help and you can't isolate one finger, that's okay. Do what you can. Work towards the goal. Start taking the hips forward. Audible taps, maybe less audible taps, elbows staying straight. Putting weight into the wrists, continue tapping if you can, and then go ahead and take it back. We're gonna do ring fingers. Again, if there's other fingers that want to help and it's hard just to isolate one finger, this is something you can work on. Hips begin to come forward. Is your tapping still audible? Do your elbows want to bend? All the way up and back. Middle fingers tapping, coming forward. Noticing the sensations that come up in your body as you go through these movements. Tiny, tiny little taps. Mine are barely tapping and my elbows really want to bend, but I'm working towards my end range. And back. Index finger, tapping, tapping. Noticing how the fingers we tend to mobilize and use the most are the ones that are usually the most responsive here. Coming back, just for giggles, let's do the thumbs, although these are a lot easier, I find, than the rest of them. And coming back, circle them out. We're just gonna play with putting weight into our wrists at different angles. So I'm gonna start taking my fingers out away from each other, fingertips facing the edge of the mat, and just kind of shifting side to side, noticing how that feels within my wrists. If it's too much with the full weight of my body back, I can always take my hips back towards my heels and take the weight out. Do what feels good in your body. We're going after the sensation of stretching while we're trying to activate the muscles. So we're stretching muscles as we move away and then strengthening as we push weight into them, allowing them to be worked and stretched. We're going to take the fingertips towards our knees. And then this time, for this stretch, we're going to start to shift our hips back. If your hands are relatively close to your knees, you might be able to sit back all the way and you may not feel a stretch. So if you need more, walk the wrists out further and then come back. If you're finding that this is too much, then maybe walk the hands towards the knees so you can sit back, so you're comfortable in a stretch. Once you find the right place for you, even if it means your hips are up, I just want you feeling a stretch. And then breathing here. Noticing all those little tiny muscles that you didn't actively know were there. And just allowing them to be stretched and to release. Being gentle with your body, never going to a place of pain. Possibly a place of discomfort if you're not used to these movements, but not pain. Now I'm going to take the fingertips towards one another so the palms are facing the outside of my mat. I'm going to put weight into them again. Again, if it's too much weight, set your hips back, take your hands towards your knees, and I'm just going to begin to play side to side, trying to keep my palms on the mat. You can notice that it starts to lift up if I go too far. We're trying to keep it down, so we're stretching into the musculature, adding a tiny bit of weight so things are active. Good. Sit back, rolling that out. This time, I'm going to put the back of my palm onto my mat, and I'm going to have the fingertips facing my knees. I'm not going to be putting weight into my wrists here. That's not good for them. We're just looking for the stretch. So sitting your hips back all the way, so you're just getting a stretch. And breathing here. If your elbows have to be bent here, that's totally fine. A lot of the times, especially for people that sit on computers, working the keyboards a lot, their hands are flexed in this position with their elbows bent. So doing the exact opposite feels very funny. Maybe it feels worse than funny, I don't know. Maybe you're super unhappy with this stretch right now. Just noticing where you are in your body and then trying to remove all judgment from that. Bodies change all the time. It changed to get you to where you are, and it can change again. It's just what you do with it. We're going to take the fingertips towards one another, same thing, back of the hand on the mat. Again, elbows can be bent, just looking for a slight sensation of stretching, and then breathing into that sensation. And then taking the fingertips away. This is the one that I feel is the most awkward. And then breathing into wherever you're at. Even if it means that the back of your hand isn't fully on your mat, if you're feeling the stretch, you're doing it right. I think a lot of the times yoga focuses so much on what it looks like, especially in this day and age of Instagram. And you see the cover of yoga magazines and it's these big expressive poses. It's not about that. Yoga is about the sensation in your body. And then the physical change that occurs in your body and the mental change that occurs within you as you move through the process of doing a yoga practice. Come on off those wrists, circle it up, noticing that, hey, maybe you don't do this very often, and all of a sudden there are muscles speaking to you that haven't spoken in a long time. Let's get them all speaking together. The more of these things we bring online, the more our brain understands about what's going on. So we're less likely to have wrist injuries. Same thing with shoulders. The more that we are able to connect with movements within our shoulder, the more our brain is able to adapt to sudden changes, like catching something if it falls. You're less likely to injure yourself if your body's already been there and your brain knows what to tell the shoulder to do in that case. We're going to come onto all fours, tucking the toes, coming into our first down dog. Maybe bending through the knees, doing whatever feels good to you. First one always feels really stiff to me. This is my first down dog of today. And just noticing how your body is responding. Maybe your heels are up off the ground. Maybe you're more in like a plank type pose with your shoulders forward because your shoulders aren't very open. Whatever it is, no judgment to your body. Breathe into the sensations. What exactly are you feeling in your body? Is it a stretch? Where are you feeling it? We're going to come up to tiptoe, slight bend in the knees, and then I'm going to straighten the legs, and I'm going to start walking with straight legs forward, only as far as I can. So maybe this is as far as you get, and then you can kind of come up onto fingertips and walk yourself back. Maybe you can walk all the way forward with straight legs. Just depends on your flexibility. Any way you get there, we're just going to come into a forward fold. So just allowing your upper body to fold over the lower body, releasing through the spine, releasing the head, releasing the neck, breathing here. And if you're like me, you're looking at your yoga leggings right now and you're noticing things like cat hair and fuzz and begin to bend through the knees. We're going to shift the weight into the forefoot by the toes and roll up through that spine. By bending the knees, we're trying to bring the hamstrings online and engage them to take any sort of pressure out of the low back. Inhale, circle sweep the arms up. Exhale, swan dive down. Open up through the shoulders, broadening through the shoulders as you come down. Legs can be bent here, totally fine. It takes everything out of your low back with bent legs. We're going to inhale to a flat back. Again, knees can still be bent. Exhale, planting the hands, stepping back into high plank or low plank or all fours. We're going to lower all the way down to the mat, onto our bellies. Roll those shoulders back. Take the shoulder blades down the back and then inhale to take the head up towards where the wall meets the ceiling. So like a 45-degree angle. We're not trying to crane our back into a huge back bend. Nice and light with the hands, as though you could pick them up in Cobra. And then exhale to release. That was a bit of a longer hold. We're gonna do it again. We're gonna inhale, coming up, taking the crown of the head towards where the wall meets the ceiling. Maybe setting your gaze 2 feet ahead of you, not looking directly at the wall, still looking at the floor. Exhale down. On the inhale, I'm going to engage through my entire core, trying to lift my belly button up off the mat as I push to all fours. Then tucking the toes, maybe walking the hands forward, stepping into down dog. Maybe this one feels a little bit better than the other one. We're starting to open up through the back chain of the body, through the back of the legs, the hamstrings, the calves. Starting to open up through the shoulders. Maybe you can take your armpits towards the floor a little bit more. We're gonna come up to tiptoe, slight bend in the knees. This time we're gonna step the right foot forward. Wherever it gets for you. Left foot forward, inhale to a flat back. Reminder that legs, knees can be bent here. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise. Exhale. We're going to step the big toes to touch, heels slightly apart. Bend into the knees deeply. Inhaling up, chair pose. In chair pose, we're trying to tuck the tail just a little bit so we have a nice neutral curve in our low back, reaching up through the crown of the head and the arms, and then sinking those hips back. A lot of weight in the heels, almost so light that you can pick up your toes. Check to make sure that you can see your toes so your knees aren't super far ahead of them, placing most of the weight into your heels. And then exhale as you fold, maybe starting to straighten the legs just a little bit, maybe not. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, planting the hands, stepping back into high plank. Keeping the elbows in as you lower all the way down. Rolling the shoulders back. Inhale, cobra. Exhale through all fours. And then down dog.